Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Joseph, and I help people with tools that empower you and help you strengthen relationships. Um, Tonight, we are talking about recognizing mistakes as opportunities as part of our Parenting Through Difficult Times series for the SD 46 on the Sunshine Coast. So let's jump in. I wanted to start tonight by just having you take a moment to think about what messages about mistakes did you hear as a child? What messages have you received throughout your life about making mistakes? Just take a moment to think about this because I think it really impacts how we view mistakes and how we respond to mistakes that other people and our children make. So we're always learning and making decisions. And what kind of decisions are you making about mistakes? What are you learning about making mistakes? What did you learn from your parents about making mistakes, or your teachers or coaches throughout your life? And how did that change your thoughts about yourself? What did you learn about yourself when you made a mistake? Children, adolescents are always making decisions. They're making decisions about themselves. Are they good or bad, adequate or inadequate, capable or incapable? They're making decisions about other people. They're making decisions about the world as a safe place or a threatening place. And they're making decisions about what they need to do in order to feel good, in order to feel safe, in order to survive. Right? Sometimes these decisions aren't what we think they're going to be. But often these decisions are linked to how the people around us respond to us. Um, and a lot of responses, if you think about it, are more like reactions, right? When when a child makes a mistake, adults often react instead of respond. And so, what do our reactions teach children, or what decisions are children making because of the way that we react to mistakes that they have made? Wouldn't it be wonderful to hear an adult say to a child or a teen, "You made a mistake. That's fantastic. What can we learn from it?" So, tonight we're talking about mistakes and how we can use them as opportunities, right? And this is just one way that we can look at a mistake as an opportunity to learn, right? But there's also other types of opportunities that present themselves when mistakes happen. I love this quote from Thomas Edison. "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." And that's something he said when he was trying to um, succeed with his his experiment. And now I'm totally drawing a blank here. Was it the phone or the light bulb that he was making? Maybe one of you guys can chime in and let me know in the comments or the chat box. But he failed. he made 10,000 mistakes on the way to creating um, that invention that changed our lives as we know it. And I think that is an important thing to remember, right? We don't always get it right the first time. And if we gave up after we made a mistake and didn't get it right, then most of the things that have meaning in our life wouldn't exist. So, kids, young and old, adults too, need daily exposure to the value of mistakes and learning from them in a safe environment. And one of the ways that we can create that safe environment is by really checking our reactions, right? So I'll share with you a story of one of my own overreactions to a situation. My daughter, she was probably only 6 or 7 when this happened, but she was at summer camp and they made slime and she brought it home. And we had a rule in our house that, slime and Play-Doh and crafty things like that would be done at the table. But she was sitting on a newish chair that was upholstered and playing with the slime while she was watching TV. And then the slime got into the upholstery, and she hid it from me. And when I found it, I had quite a harsh reaction. I was upset that the rule was broken and that she had hidden this mistake of hers. And so, I had a harsh tone and I was quite stern. And I blamed her, right? Quite frankly, I pointed the finger at her and I said, what were you thinking? What was going on here? And after, she was quite upset with the way that I was responding to her, or reacting to the mistake, I should say. And when I calmed down and was able to look at it, I realized I wouldn't have come to me for help either in that situation. The way that I reacted shut down the possibility of her reaching out to me for help, to solve the problem, right? She had made a mistake and it was a solvable mistake. It just took a little work to clean it up. But because of her fear of my reaction, she decided it was better to hide her mistake than to admit her mistake to me. And I realized at that time that if I wanted her to come to me later in life, when she was a teen, with challenges, with mistakes, with problems, if I wanted her to think, I need my mom's help and not, I better hide this from my mom, then I needed to check my reaction. I needed to check myself before I responded to mistakes. And I needed to make it a safe environment for her to make mistakes in. Otherwise, I was basically extinguishing that possibility, driving her away. So one of the things that we implemented, and some other families that I know have found helpful, is to invite everyone to share a mistake of the day and what they learned from it during dinner time. Because children do better when they feel better, and so do adults, right? I haven't met an adult yet who works harder or feels good about themselves or strives for goals when they're being reprimanded, blamed, shamed, or just they're not connected to their workplace or their family or whatever it is. We all do better when we feel connected and when we feel respected and we feel encouraged. So often we see that what actually is happening in households where there's a lot of misbehavior is that child is just feeling discouraged. They're not feeling connected. And if we can, again, create an atmosphere where kids and teens alike feel safe to make mistakes and encouraged to fix mistakes and recover from mistakes, then we often see less misbehavior, or at least a change in behavior. That's not really appropriate. So, okay, so mistakes are made, and we all make mistakes. Nobody is perfect. Sometimes mistakes are made because of lack of training. Um, for instance, communication skills aren't there yet. And so they may speak at a turn or speak in a way that doesn't communicate what they're actually asking for. Gaps in skills. So mistakes are made because we're trying to fix something, but we don't actually know how to do it. Um, Sometimes mistakes are made because they're just pure accidents, right? I, you know, I left my bag somewhere and somebody tripped over it. It's just an accident. Um, and sometimes mistakes are made on purpose. So I chose to threaten somebody, or I chose to speak harshly to somebody, or I chose to say mean things to somebody on the internet, or I chose to take a sexy picture of myself and post it on the internet, right? Sometimes we have mistakes in thinking. And just because we chose to do it, maybe even thought about it and planned it out, doesn't mean that it's not a mistake. It just means that we had a mistake in how we thought about things or how we were thinking at that time. So I like to kind of weed out these different ways of making mistakes when I talk to kids, because I think often we think mistakes are just accidents, right? But there are many different ways to make mistakes, and I think it's helpful for us to be aware, especially of the mistakes in thinking. So again, we talked about this before, that the primary goal of all children is to feel significance and belonging, so to feel connected and to feel important. And it's really important that when we're correcting behavior or when we're trying to solve problems or recover from mistakes, that we are connecting before we do that. Nothing shuts down connection like shame. Um, so it's helpful and super important to, again, check our reactions, reel it in, make sure we're not blaming and shaming when we're coming in to help with a problem or help somebody recover from mistake or just deal with a mistake. So in positive discipline, we talk about the 3 R's and an H for focusing on solutions. And this is really helpful when we're thinking about mistakes as a problem that needs to be solved, right? So we can look at mistakes as an opportunity for connecting, an opportunity to develop problem-solving skills, an opportunity to teach responsibility and accountability, right? An opportunity for learning. And so when we're focusing on solutions, we want to, instead of focusing on blame, we want to focus on how can we solve this problem together. So we can identify the problem and brainstorm for as many solutions as possible, and then pick one that works for everyone. And when we're evaluating, we want to work it through this system of the 3 R's and an H for focusing on solutions. So we want to make sure that the solution is related, respectful, reasonable, and helpful. And so when we can put it through that lens, it really helps us find a solution that will work for everybody. So I also like to point out now that we all make mistakes, and a lot of our reactions as parents could be considered mistakes, right? And so one of the best ways to teach our children how to recover from a mistake, how to take responsibility, how to be accountable, is to show them that we can do the same for our behavior. So when I had that overreaction that I was talking to you about, I took responsibility for it. I talked to my daughter about it. I apologized to her. And then I changed. I made an effort to not overreact again, as I said, to check myself before I responded. And sometimes, sometimes I still fall into that pit hole because I'm human, but I see it again as a mistake and as an opportunity for me to show my children what it looks like to take responsibility for your mistakes and how to apologize, and how to recover. It's a it's something that we've talked about a lot in our family, because I think it's really important to recognize that, like, mistakes happen. Everybody makes mistakes. And I don't think that it's so much about what the mistake is that you made, but how you handled the mistake after you made it, right? Did you take responsibility for it, or did you hide it? Did you hold yourself accountable to recovering from that mistake or fixing that mistake, or did you avoid it, right? Were you able to apologize to anyone who may have been hurt by your mistake, or did you blame others and get defensive, right? I think that how we respond to making mistakes is way more important than often the mistake itself. Okay, so 4 steps to recovering from mistake. First is to recognize that you've made a mistake. Sometimes we can be quite oblivious to the fact that we have just stepped in it, or that, you know, we just deflect blame, right? We do not want to take responsibility, so we don't even recognize that we've made a mistake. The second step is to take responsibility. So taking responsibility means admitting responsibility to others for the mistake that you have made, and admitting to yourself that you have made a mistake. The third step is reconcile, and that is to apologize. And I am going to talk more about this in a second, because I think that often we don't do apologies very well. And then the fourth is to resolve, and that resolve is really just solving problems together, right? So how are we going to avoid making this mistake again in the future, or what do we need to do to clean up the mess, right, that's been made by this mistake? Okay, so 4 R's: recognize, take responsibility, reconcile, and resolve. All right, how do we apologize? So before you go reading this, I just like to say that this is a skill that I find myself teaching a lot. And I teach it to kids as young as kindergarten and grade 1. And I teach it to adults in couples counseling. And I teach it to families, and pretty much everybody I work with, teachers, everybody gets this lesson, because I think that we do a disservice to others when we apologize too often, right? And we do a disservice to ourselves when we don't apologize in a respectful and appropriate way. So when we apologize, we often deflect, we defend, we explain, and all of those things are not apologies. So if you have ever apologized by saying, I'm sorry for whatever, but blah, 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 that is not an apology, right? You can't say I'm sorry, but anything that has a but in it does not work as an apology. So an apology really needs to be focused on the other person, and needs to be focused on just the act itself, right? So I'm sorry for yelling. I'm sorry for blaming. I'm sorry I was late. End stop, period, right? No, I'm sorry I was late, but the traffic was bad. No, I'm sorry I was late. That's it, right? End stop. So when we do that, we're really taking ownership for and responsibility for our actions. Um, and we're also addressing the need of the other person to have acknowledged how they were harmed or hurt, right? So when we apologize, we're going to say, I'm sorry for whatever it was we did, and stop. We're going to say, I'll try not to do it again. And will you accept my apology? And this is a really important step as well, because so often when we say, I'm sorry, kids will say, it's okay. And my response is, no, it's not. It's not okay that I treated you badly. It's not okay that I yelled at you. It's not okay that I hurt your feelings, right? Those things are not okay. And so we need to give other people the words to accept our apology without condoning our behavior. And so when we teach kids how to accept an apology, um, it gives them that ability, right? So in accepting an apology, you can say, I accept your apology, instead of, okay, it's all right, or don't worry about it. Sometimes sometimes we receive an apology and we're not ready for it. We're not ready to forgive, we're not ready to hear it, we're not ready to listen, and that's okay. So it's important that we also provide the wording for, I just need to cool down and think about it, and I'll get back to you later if somebody's not ready to receive an apology, or accept an apology, right? Because that's an okay thing as well. So one of the ways I teach this to families is simply talking about it like this. And I have a handout that I often give that just goes through these steps. And when we talk about it in advance, we kind of set it up so that we can practice. And then when we need it, we try it. And I have to say that in our house, we've been using this since my daughter was in grade one. And yeah, it works amazing. It works really well. We use this language, and it helps us recover from arguments, and misunderstandings and miscommunications, and start over. And that's part of the language that we developed with this was, I'm sorry for whatever it is. Will you accept my apology? Can we start over? And I really love that, because it allows us to take responsibility and let go and be able to go back and start again. So I offer you my wording. My daughter and I have created of can we start over? Because yeah, that's something I created for sure. Might give it a try, because I feel like it's something that would be very helpful with adolescents, because we're able to kind of rewind and try again and save face a lot in terms of, we don't have to go through it and hash it all out, and I don't know, and make it into a big lecture or a big learning opportunity. We can simply say, I'm sorry for, because I can take responsibility for it. I can accept your apology, and then we can move forward and start over, right? So yeah, give that a try. Okay, so just to wrap up talking about mistakes, again, thinking about mistakes as opportunities to not only connect, to build relationship, right? So we want to build that relationship where our kids feel like they're safe. It's safe to come to us, that they want to come to us to help them solve problems, or to help them handle mistakes, right? We want to help them learn from the mistakes. We want to help them take responsibility and learn how to follow through with that accountability and apologizing. Um, yeah, it just feels like there's such a great opportunity and so many skills that we can help our children develop just from not overreacting to mistakes, right? Okay, so thank you, Peter. It was the light bulb that Thomas Edison developed. Thank you for that. So yes, I appreciate that input. Okay, so I think that's all I needed to say about mistakes for tonight, and I hope that you enjoyed tonight's presentation. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording here so we can have a discussion about this. And I'll just, before I do that, I'll share with you what next week's topic's going to be. Next week, we are talking about finding that balance between kind and firm parenting. And I just want to say, right now, our tolerance levels, right, are kind of, our window of tolerance is closing. Our ability for coping with stress is definitely impacted from just being in a global pandemic, right? So mistakes are going to be made because our minds are not as sharp as they usually are. Our reactions are probably going to be, we're going to be more reactive. And they might be sharper, harsher tones that we're using. And so I just want to remind you that, we make mistakes and it's okay to make mistakes. And that we have opportunities to learn from them, but also just be gentle with yourselves. Okay. Because everybody's struggling right now. And it doesn't help us. It doesn't help our children when we're judging ourselves harshly or judging them harshly for basically a stress response, right? So one of the things that we can talk about maybe when we're making mistakes is just that the stress response, and how it's not okay. We can't use it as an excuse all the time. However, we can use it as an understanding, right? We can use it to help us understand maybe why we're making more mistakes right now, or and as a way to have more compassion for each other. Yeah. Okay. So with that said, I look forward to next Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. If you would like to join us live for a discussion, we will be here. Otherwise, catch the recording. I'd love to hear from you. So pop some comments into the box below if you're catching this on replay. All right, take care.